Hello everyone, you are on the channel Who Created It and How. Imagine trying to get somewhere completely new, without your phone, without a GPS, without even a paper map. Sounds pretty impossible, right? Well, for most of human history, that was the reality. So how did we go from wandering aimlessly to having the entire world mapped out in our pockets? Let's dive into the amazing story of how the very first maps were made. The earliest maps weren't on paper. They were scratched into cave walls, carved onto mammoth tusks, or drawn in the dirt. These weren't maps of continents, but of local areas. Think of it like a personal guide. Here's the river, here's the good hunting spot, and watch out for that big rock formation. They were practical tools for survival, showing paths, water sources, and landmarks. One of the oldest examples found is a mammoth tusk from the Czech Republic, dated to around 25,000 BC, with carvings that are believed to represent the surrounding landscape of hills, rivers, and valleys. It was a community's shared knowledge, passed down visually. The first major leap in mapmaking came from the ancient Babylonians. Around 600 BC, they created what many considered the first world map, etched onto a clay tablet. Now their world was basically just their own region, Mesopotamia. The map shows Babylon at the center, surrounded by other cities and a great circular ocean, with a few mysterious islands beyond. It's not geographically accurate by our standards, of course. It was more of a symbolic map, a blend of geography and mythology, showing their place at the center of the universe. But it was a revolutionary idea, to represent the entire known world in a single, organized diagram. Then came the ancient Greeks, who really turned map-making into a science. They were thinkers, mathematicians, and astronomers. A guy named Anaximander is often credited with creating one of the first scaled maps of the known world, around 550 BC. He imagined the Earth as a cylinder, which was a step up from a flat disk. But the real game changer was the realization that the Earth was a sphere. Thinkers like Pythagoras and later Aristotle provided philosophical and observational proof for a round Earth. For instance, they noticed that ships disappearing over the horizon vanished hull first, and that the Earth cast a circular shadow on the Moon during a lunar eclipse. This idea of a spherical Earth blew the doors wide open for cartography. Enter Eratosthenes, a Greek scholar living in Egypt around 240 BC. He did something truly brilliant. He heard that in a city called Syene, on the summer solstice, the sun was directly overhead and cast no shadows. At the same time, in his city of Alexandria, further north, the sun did cast a shadow. By measuring the angle of that shadow and knowing the distance between the two cities, he used some clever geometry to calculate the circumference of the entire planet, and his calculation was astonishingly close to the actual value. This was huge. It meant you could create a grid system to accurately place locations on a map. This grid system is the ancestor of our modern latitude and longitude. The Greeks started developing it with lines running east-west and north-south. A geographer named Hipparchus was the first to propose dividing the Earth into 360 degrees and using a grid to specify the exact location of any place. However, the one who truly put it all together was Claudius Ptolemy. Around 150 AD, Ptolemy wrote a book called Geographia. It was an absolute masterpiece. It was a comprehensive guide on how to make maps, complete with a list of over 8,000 places with their coordinates, their latitude and longitude. He created a projection, a method to represent the curved surface of the Earth on a flat piece of paper. His maps weren't perfect. He made some errors, like making the Mediterranean Sea too long and Asia too large. But Geographia became the gold standard for mapmaking for over more than 400 years. For centuries, if you were making a map, you were basically copying or trying to improve upon Ptolemy's work. During the Middle Ages in Europe, mapmaking took a bit of a step back scientifically. Maps became more religious and symbolic. Many European maps from this time, called TO maps, showed the world as a circle with a T shape inside. The T represented the major bodies of water dividing the three known continents, Asia, Africa, and Europe. And at the very top, in the place of honor was Jerusalem at the center of the world, with east pointing upwards towards the Garden of Eden. These maps were less about accurate navigation and more about illustrating a Christian worldview. Meanwhile, in the Islamic world, cartography was thriving. Scholars preserved and built upon the Greek knowledge. The Arab geographer Al-Idrisi, working for King Roger II of Sicily in the 12th century, created one of the most advanced world maps of the medieval era. His team spent years gathering information from sailors and merchants, creating an incredibly detailed map that was far more accurate than anything being produced in Europe at the time. He combined the scientific approach of Ptolemy with real, contemporary travel knowledge. Then came the age of exploration. Suddenly, European sailors like Columbus, Vasco da Gama and Magellan were sailing into uncharted waters and discovering lands that weren't on Ptolemy's maps. This created a massive demand for new, more accurate maps. Old maps were obsolete. Mapmakers were scrambling to update their charts with new coastlines, new continents, and new sea routes. This is where the famous Mercator projection comes in. In 1569, Gerardus Mercator, a Flemish cartographer, created a new world map that solved a big problem for sailors. On a globe, lines of constant bearing, or rhumb lines, are curves. This makes navigation tricky. Mercator's projection cleverly distorts the map, especially near the poles, so that these lines become straight. A sailor could simply draw a straight line from their starting point to their destination and follow that single compass bearing. It was revolutionary for navigation. It's also why Greenland looks as big as Africa on many maps, even though it's much smaller. It's a trade-off, perfect for navigation, but terrible for comparing the size of landmasses. The invention of the printing press was another huge factor. Suddenly maps could be mass-produced. They were no longer rare, hand-drawn luxury items. Knowledge of the world's geography could spread faster and wider than ever before. This fueled more exploration, which in turn led to more accurate maps, creating a cycle of discovery. Over the next few centuries, mapmaking just kept getting better. With the invention of more precise instruments like the chronometer, which allowed sailors to determine their longitude accurately, maps became incredibly detailed. Land surveyors began to systematically map entire countries, foot by foot, using triangulation. This process involves creating a network of triangles and carefully measuring angles and distances to create highly accurate and detailed topographical maps. And today, we live in a world that Eratosthenes or Mercator could only dream of. Satellites in orbit constantly scan the Earth's surface, giving us real-time, high-resolution imagery. GPS technology allows us to pinpoint our exact location on the planet within seconds. We have digital maps that can show us traffic, tell us the best route to a coffee shop, and even give us a street-level view of a city on the other side of the world. So from carvings on a tusk to a live 3D globe on our phones, the journey of the map is a story of human curiosity, ingenuity, and our relentless desire to understand our place in the world. It's a story of science, art, exploration, and power. Every time you open a map app, you're using a tool that has been thousands of years in the making. What do you think is the most fascinating part of this history? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Who created it and how? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon so you don't miss our next exploration into how things are made. See you next time.